All right, class, settle down. You think you know South Park characters? You probably have your favorites. Maybe Randy's antics or Cartman's schemes. But here's the thing. South Park has created a character hierarchy so complex that some forgettable characters actually serve the show's genius better than fan favorites. We're talking 7 distinct levels, from absolute background noise to the untouchable main cast. And the shocking truth, the characters you dismiss might be doing more narrative heavy lifting than the ones you worship. Today, we're ranking every South Park character by their actual importance to the show's DNA. So let's start at rock bottom. Level 1, Forgettable Filler. These characters serve as comic devices, not people. Treating them as mere fixtures in the town's landscape, they establish South Park's commitment to realistic social structures while maintaining creative freedom for more important characters. Meet the bottom tier where characters exist purely as background noise. Yet somehow they keep showing up episode after episode, like that one co-worker who never contributes to meetings but still attends every single one. These characters are South Park's narrative furniture. They fill space, serve a function, and disappear from memory the moment they leave the screen. Miss Crabtree screams her way through elementary school bus routes, being more annoying than actually funny. Her entire personality revolves around yelling at children and driving erratically, which sounds like it should work in South Park's universe, but it doesn't. She was later written out of the series because even the creators got tired of her one-note shrieking. When your own creators can't stand you anymore, that's probably a sign you belong in the bottom tier. Her exit wasn't mourning-worthy, it was merciful. The whites get grouped together because they parody the victim complex some white people have developed, but the joke gets old pretty quick. They appear in crowd shots and town gatherings like human wallpaper, delivering generic parent dialogue that any background character could handle. Mr. Adler appears in multiple episodes with his PTA meetings and woodshop class, yet remains completely forgettable despite repeated exposure. Mr. Adler even got a weird live-action flashback montage in Tweek vs. Craig, which should have made him memorable but didn't. He's like that teacher you had in school whose name you can't remember, even though you saw them every day for a semester. These characters represent South Park's early scaffolding minor figures that seemed important when the show was finding its voice. Back in the beginning, every adult needed a job, every location needed staff, and every institution required authority figures. Miss Crabtree drove the bus because someone had to. The whites attended meetings because crowds need faces. Mr. Adler taught shop class because schools have shop teachers. They're products of world-building necessity rather than comedic inspiration. They lampoon how early TV shows often overstate minor characters when the longer-running roster demands bigger narrative hooks. Most sitcoms try to give every recurring character a personality quirk, a catchphrase, or a memorable trait. South Park deliberately refuses this approach with Level 1 characters. They exist to show that not everyone in a fictional town needs to be special or memorable. Real small towns have boring people too. Level 1 proves that being forgettable can actually be the point they're designed to fade into background so better characters can shine. Without these bland foundation figures, the more extreme characters would have nothing to contrast against. Cartman's outrageous behavior hits harder when surrounded by normal, boring adults. Randy's antics seem more ridiculous when contrasted with generic parent figures like the whites. But here's where it gets interesting. Even these throwaway characters serve the show's DNA in ways you probably never noticed. They establish South Park's commitment to realistic social structures while maintaining creative freedom for more important characters. They prove the writers understand that not every joke needs to land, not every character needs development, and sometimes the best service you can provide is simply getting out of the way. The genius here is intentional restraint. These characters know their place in the ecosystem and stay there. But what happens when characters get just memorable enough to be annoying instead of invisible? That's where things get more complicated. Level 2. One-note wonders. Characters get trapped by their own defining traits. They're memorable, but for all the wrong reasons. These are the South Park characters who got handed one personality trait and never escaped it. Like actors typecast so hard they can't get other roles. You remember them, sure, but mostly because their single joke got beaten into the ground until it became predictable rather than funny. These are the characters whose entire personality revolves around a single joke, and that joke gets old fast. Think of them like that friend who tells the same story at every party. Technically, they're participating in the conversation, but everyone stops listening after the third time. Level 2 characters suffer from what you might call comedic claustrophobia. They're trapped in boxes so small they can barely breathe, let alone grow. Scott Malkinson exists purely as the diabetes kid. His condition defines his entire personality to the point where it becomes his surname for humor. He pops up in episodes such as Elementary School Musical and later gets a few spotlight moments. But diabetes remains his defining gag. Every single appearance revolves around his diabetes management, his insulin needs, or jokes about his blood sugar. The writers created him as a walking medical condition rather than a person who happens to have diabetes. When he shows up, you know exactly what the joke will be before he opens his mouth. Miss Tucker's body hair subplot in The Magic Bush is the one time the writers lean into her obsession, which lands as satire for some viewers and as flat one note for others. She transforms from concerned mother into full-blown voyeur, spying on her own family's grooming habits like some kind of follicle detective. The episode stretches her single trait, being judgmental about personal hygiene, into an entire storyline that feels more uncomfortable than satirical for many viewers. Her character becomes a vehicle for one specific cultural critique, but that critique doesn't have enough depth to sustain meaningful comedy. Then there's Betsy Donovan, whose posthumous guilt-tripping in Reverse Cowgirl, where she blames her son Clyde for her death, a punchline that lands for some and profoundly misses for others. Her character exists solely to deliver this one twisted joke, and once that punchline gets delivered, there's nothing else left. The supernatural guilt manipulation turns what should be absurd humor into genuinely uncomfortable family dysfunction. These characters illustrate South Park's occasional over-reliance on single gags without enough depth to sustain longer-running humor. It's like building an entire house on a foundation designed for a shed. The structure can't support its own weight. When writers create characters around one joke instead of creating jokes around characters, you get these personality prisoners who can never surprise you or grow beyond their initial concept. The problem isn't the joke itself, it's that the writers trap these characters in comedic amber, never letting them evolve. Scott's diabetes could be one aspect of a fuller personality, but instead, it becomes his entire identity. Miss Tucker's concern about family privacy could lead to interesting parenting satire, but instead it becomes obsessive voyeurism. Betsy's death could create opportunities for complex grief humor, but instead, it becomes simple guilt manipulation. They become punchlines more than personas, serving as cautionary tales of what happens when a trait becomes a prison. These characters can't surprise you because their single defining feature predetermines every interaction. When Scott appears, you're getting diabetes jokes. When Miss Tucker shows up, you're getting body hair commentary. When Betsy haunts a scene, you're getting maternal guilt trips. They're comedy vending machines that only dispense one product. Level 2 shows how limiting characters to one defining feature can backfire. They become predictable rather than funny. Predictability is comedy death. Once audiences know exactly what a character will do in every situation, that character stops generating genuine laughs and starts generating eye rolls. But even these one-note wonders serve a purpose in South Park's ecosystem, highlighting what happens when satire becomes too narrow. They're cautionary examples that make the show's better characters work so well by contrast. Sometimes you need characters who are almost people to appreciate the ones who transcend being people entirely. Level 3. Background players. Level 3 are basically walking ideas characters who are metaphors more than people. You're watching concepts given cartoon form to deliver specific satirical punches, not fully developed personalities interacting with the world. They exist purely to make points about bigger issues, not to develop relationships or grow as individuals. These aren't really characters at all. They're walking punchlines about entertainment tropes and cultural phenomena. When these figures appear on screen, you're not supposed to care about their personal journeys or emotional arcs. You're supposed to recognize the thing they're mocking and appreciate how effectively they mock it. The visitors have lurked in backgrounds since the pilot episode. With zero discernible personalities, they show up as background Easter eggs and rarely speak, which is the point. These gray aliens pop up in crowd shots, hiding behind trees, or floating in the distance without ever speaking meaningful dialogue or advancing any plot. They're South Park's longest-running inside joke about meaningless Easter eggs that fans obsess over despite having no actual significance. The creators literally put them there to see if viewers would notice background details that don't matter. And sure enough, fans created entire theories about these personality-free space tourists. Man-Bear-Pig was introduced as an Al Gore allegory for climate change, described as a ridiculous half-bear, half-pig creature that's completely absurd by design. This isn't a character with motivations, goals, or development. It's a walking metaphor for environmental panic campaigns taken to cartoonish extremes. The creators later revisited Man-Bear-Pig and updated its role, bringing it back in Season 22 and modern specials to reflect new context. The creature's ridiculous anatomy mirrors how political messages can get distorted through media amplification until they become unrecognizable parodies of their original intent. When Man-Bear-Pig appears, you're not watching a monster story unfold. You're watching a critique of celebrity activism and media sensationalism play out through creature feature comedy. The PC babies literally personify political correctness through infant tantrums, first appearing as personifications of PC culture in episodes like The Problem with Apu and Buddha Box. These characters don't have individual personalities because they represent a collective cultural phenomenon rather than specific people. Their crying fits whenever someone says something potentially offensive serves as pure satire. They're not babies who happen to be sensitive. Their sensitivity itself given baby form. The joke works because it reduces complex cultural debates about language and respect down to their most childish emotional components. These characters work because they're not trying to be people, they're abstractions given form. Traditional character development would actually weaken their satirical power. If the visitors had personalities, relationships, and growth arcs, they'd stop being effective commentary about meaningless fan obsessions and start being actual alien characters. If Man Bear Pig had emotional depth, it would stop being effective environmental satire and become a monster with feelings. The visitors joke about meaningless background Easter eggs. Man Bear Pig mocks celebrity panic campaigns. PC babies satirize cultural movements. Each figure operates like a specialized tool designed for one specific satirical job. The visitors cut through fan culture's tendency to overanalyze insignificant details. Man Bear Pig slices through environmental messaging that prioritizes drama over substance. PC babies dissect cultural sensitivity movements that prioritize emotional reactions over productive dialogue. South Park uses these figures to critique entertainment itself, the idea that every background element needs personality or purpose. Most shows would give the visitors a backstory, Man Bear Pig character motivations, and the PC babies' individual names and traits. South Park deliberately refuses this approach, using their emptiness as comedy. They're anti-characters in a medium obsessed with character development, proving that sometimes the absence of personality is more powerful than its presence. Level 3 reveals how South Park turns concepts into characters, using abstraction to deliver sharper social commentary. By refusing to humanize these walking metaphors, the show can attack ideas without getting distracted by individual psychology or emotional complexity. These figures punch harder because they're not weighed down by the messy reality of actual personality. But what happens when characters actually commit to doing their jobs consistently? When they show up reliably and make scenes work without demanding the spotlight? Level 4. Solid supporting cast. Level 4 houses the workhorses characters who show up, do their job, and somehow make every scene better without stealing the spotlight. These are South Park's dependable ensemble. The middle management who handle day-to-day operations while executives above make big decisions and interns below make obvious mistakes. Jimbo and Ned made "It's Coming Right for Us" and ran Huntin' and Killin' as running gags that transform hunting into absurd hobby theater. Ned's electrolarynx adds robotic contrast to their macho posturing, creating weird tension between tough guy narratives and medical reality. Their cable access show serves up exaggerated military tales that grow more ridiculous with each retelling, satirizing how some people turn hobbies into elaborate performances of masculinity. Officer Bar Brady began as the dumb but lovable lone cop, later gets layered with real-life struggles, and is eventually written out of the force in Season 19. His illiteracy creates situations where he misreads evidence and stumbles into correct conclusions through pure accident. The chicken lover case shows how his incompetence can somehow circle back to effectiveness, like a broken clock being right twice a day. When the show explores his financial struggles and eventual firing, it adds genuine pathos to what could have been simple comic relief. Big Gay Al runs the Big Gay Animal Sanctuary and later marries Mr. Slave, standing as one of the town's most wholesome figures whose optimism carries weight in episodes about discrimination and acceptance. Principal Victoria dedicates herself to student-focused leadership until PC Principal forces her out in Season 19, demonstrating how institutional change often sacrifices good people for ideological consistency. The Goth Kids debuted in Raisins and deliver pointed anti-conformist satire through their commitment to aesthetic rebellion and subcultural identity. Nathan and Mimsy serve as Looney Tunes-style inept antagonists whose elaborate schemes are brought down by their own incompetence. Skeeter transitions from bar regular to wine bar owner in the city part of town, representing gentrification anxiety through his character evolution. These characters create the stable foundation that allows South Park's more extreme elements to work without the whole thing collapsing into chaos. They're like the character equivalent of a well-tuned engine, not flashy, but absolutely essential for keeping everything running smoothly. Without reliable figures providing consistent emotional beats and comedic rhythms, South Park's wildest experiments would feel random rather than purposeful. Level 4 demonstrates how dependable supporting cast can maintain the show's emotional center while enabling its wildest experiments. They anchor the show's tone while letting more extreme ideas float around them. They're the steady foundation that makes chaos possible. These workhorses prove that sometimes being reliably good is more valuable than being memorably outrageous. But what happens when characters break through that reliability barrier and become something bigger than their original purpose? Level 5. Fan favorites. Level 5 houses the cult heroes characters whose quirks became fixtures in fans' minds and internet culture. These are the quotable, meme-ready, frequently merchandised figures who somehow transcended television and became part of the broader cultural conversation. Mr. Mackey's MEK cadence in episodes like Ike's Wee Wee became more famous than actual drug education. He was literally designed to be hated, and that made him unforgettable. Terrence and Phillip deliver meta-parody of crude humor through their show-within-a-show format. Ike provides emotional depth through the kick-the-baby-running gag, despite minimal dialogue. Tuong Lu Kim creates quotable moments through his split-personality restaurant owner routine. Chef's parents bring Loch Ness monster-level ridiculousness with their tree-fitty stories. Mr. Hanky spreads Christmas cheer through Mr. Hanky, the Christmas Pooh, and recurring holiday appearances. Timmy earns praise for positive disability representation that treats his condition as just another character trait. You probably quote these characters without even thinking about it, dropping their catchphrases into everyday conversations like they're actual words. They're like that one song that gets stuck in your head, except instead of a melody, it's Mr. Mackey saying "Mean K" for the 1000th time. These characters transcended their original purpose to become beloved icons, often despite being intentionally awful. Think of them like accidentally viral memes. They weren't supposed to be the main attraction, but somehow they stole the show and never gave it back. The writers created some of these figures as throwaway jokes or deliberate failures, only to watch them become more popular than characters they actually tried to develop. The irony cuts deep with Mr. Mackey. He's supposed to be educating kids about serious topics, but audiences remember his verbal tick more than any lesson he's delivered. His drug education sessions become exercises in bureaucratic absurdity, where the catchphrase overshadows the message completely. When you hear M&K, you're not thinking about substance abuse prevention. You're thinking about institutional incompetence wrapped in a bow of politeness. Towelie represents South Park's willingness to embrace characters that should fail, but somehow work through sheer commitment to their own ridiculousness. The writers deliberately made him annoying and unlikable, a sentient towel whose primary interests include getting high and reminding people about towel-related hygiene. His catchphrases like, "Don't forget to bring a towel," and "You want to get high?" became iconic precisely because they're so stupid. Terrence and Phillip prove fart-based humor can sustain entire storylines while representing American hostility toward Canadians with surprising sophistication. Their show-within-a-show serves as meta-commentary about South Park itself, making fun of critics who dismiss the series as juvenile toilet humor. The fart jokes become vehicles for complex social commentary about cultural prejudices and entertainment snobbery. They're simultaneously the dumbest and smartest characters on the show, using the lowest form of comedy to deliver surprisingly sharp cultural criticism. Despite his limited vocabulary, Ike provides genuine emotional depth to Kyle's storylines, proving that minimal dialogue can create maximum impact. Meanwhile, Lu Kim's duality as both Chinese restaurant owner and white psychiatrist creates layers of absurdist humor that somehow make perfect sense within South Park's universe. His harrow, shitty walk, "Take your order please," is instantly recognizable, but the psychological twist underneath adds unexpected complexity. The parents' tree-fitty stories become legendary examples of comedic storytelling, while Mr. Hanky's howdy ho proves that even literal toilet humor can carry emotional weight when handled correctly. Timmy's limited vocabulary never becomes the joke. Instead, his disability is treated as just another character trait, making him one of television's better examples of inclusive representation. Tweek's anxiety origin story, rooted in bad parenting, finds comfort through his relationship with Craig, proving even neurotic characters can grow. Their relationship stands out as one of the show's few genuinely healthy romantic partnerships, demonstrating how South Park can handle character development without losing its edge. Level 5 confirms how consistency and quotability often outperform complex character development in creating lasting cultural impact. These fan favorites show that sometimes a simple MMK travels further than sophisticated character arcs. But some characters push beyond memorable catchphrases into something more substantial. Level 6. Core Powerhouses. Level 6 houses South Park's most essential engine's characters who anchor long-form satirical storylines and drive entire seasons rather than just individual episodes. These figures evolved beyond simple archetypes into complex narrative drivers who can carry serious themes while maintaining comedic edge. Chef was written out after controversy around his voice actor, Isaac Hayes. The show later memorialized him in episode, transforming a beloved mentor into a cautionary tale about institutional loyalty versus artistic freedom. Mr. Garrison's presidential campaign and extremist evolution demonstrate how people can adopt increasingly outlandish positions while somehow retaining influence and employment. Gerald's skank hunt storyline in Season 20 shifted his portrayal from weird innocent father to malicious internet troll, splitting fan response as the show explored digital culture's dark side. Sharon consistently serves as voice of reason managing Randy's explosive chaos, her exasperated reactions providing the audience's surrogate when his antics spiral out of control. PC Principal's arc from antagonist to indispensable reformer shows how South Park uses abrasive characters to redirect town dynamics toward broader social commentary. Token evolved beyond stereotype setup and punchline jokes into nuanced perspective on race and class, gaining genuine agency in later seasons. Wendy's activist storylines create pointed moral debates when they collide with Cartman's schemes, her principled positions clashing with his manipulative selfishness in ways that illuminate real-world political tensions. Her conflicts with Cartman generate some of the show's most memorable episodes precisely because both characters commit fully to their opposing worldviews, creating genuine ideological friction rather than simple personality clashes. These characters demonstrate South Park's push-pull between chaos and rationality, serving as both personal growth vehicles and moral tension generators. They prove cartoon characters can evolve and change while maintaining their core comedic functions, creating genuine investment in outcomes without sacrificing satirical edge. When these figures face consequences for their actions, those consequences matter because you've invested in their journeys over multiple seasons. Chef's departure showed how real-world conflicts can reshape fictional narratives in unexpected ways. His role as the adult who actually listened to kids and offered genuine advice, even wrapped in sexually explicit musical numbers, made his loss genuinely felt by audiences. The show's handling of his exit reflected the behind-the-scenes drama while maintaining respect for the character's legacy. Mr. Garrison's political transformation mirrors real-world figures who shift public personas to match changing cultural currents, using his teaching position as a platform for whatever ideology he's currently embracing. His ability to keep getting rehired despite obvious instability highlights how institutions often prioritize familiar faces over actual competence, making his character a vehicle for sustained political satire. Gerald's internet trolling revealed how ordinary people can become monsters when they think nobody's watching, his online harassment campaigns creating real consequences for family and community. The Season 20 storyline cast Gerald in a morally problematic light that divided audiences, proving South Park could explore digital culture's complexities without losing its satirical bite. PC Principal's evolution from heavy-handed enforcer to complex reformer demonstrates how the show can take seemingly one-dimensional satirical targets and find unexpected depth within them. His character development turns a walking punchline into an actual person with recognizable motivations, showing how abrasive personalities can serve necessary institutional functions. Level 6 proves that core characters can anchor the show's most ambitious satirical swings while maintaining emotional authenticity. They create the stable foundation that allows South Park's wildest experiments to work without collapsing into pure chaos. These figures establish emotional stakes that transform episodes from simple comedy into something approaching genuine drama. But some characters transcend even these essential supporting roles to become the very foundation of everything South Park represents. Level 7. The main 4+. Level 7 are the characters who define South Park's identity. the figures who turn episodes into cultural events and whose quotes become part of everyday conversation years after they first aired. This is the inner circle that fans consider the heart of South Park, plus the pillars who help carry the show's most ambitious story arcs. Cartman, the show's engine, infamous in episodes like Scott Tenorman Must Die, where his revenge schemes reveal genuine psychological complexity wrapped in 8-year-old psychopathy. His character was designed to be horrible and evil, yet he remains one of the funniest characters ever created. The writers made him irreplaceable by making him irredeemable. You can't reform Cartman without destroying what makes him work. His mommy issues fuel schemes that range from petty revenge to elaborate criminal enterprises, all delivered with the confidence of someone who genuinely believes he's the hero of his own story. Kenny. His recurring deaths build to his Mysterian arc in Mysterian Rises, where he reveals greater depth and even superhuman elements. Despite having very little dialogue and fewer appearances in recent seasons, Kenny remains one of the most genuinely good people on the show. His deaths create the ultimate comedy paradox. Tragedy becomes comedy, becomes tragedy again. As Mysterian, he demonstrates deep care for his little sister, working long hours and lying to his parents just to improve her life slightly. He performs heroic acts with no recognition since nobody remembers his deaths, making him the most selfless character in a show full of selfish people. Stan reasoned with selfish undercurrents, exemplified in his You're Getting Old arc, where his cynicism reveals performance activism tendencies. Kyle moral compass, whose empathy sometimes misfires, like his crack baby athletic association argument, where good intentions lead to questionable choices. Stan's relatability comes from his deep flaws. He jumps on causes because he likes being liked by everyone, revealing motivations that are often more selfish than they appear. Kyle holds strong beliefs about right and wrong, but his emotional drive causes him to make choices that seem right to him, but end up being wrong. His hatred of Cartman provides the show's most important dynamic. Kyle represents everything Cartman opposes, creating conflict that works across every possible topic. Butter's the show's innocent trauma punchline, whose naivety produces both sympathy and humor in episodes where Cartman exploits his trusting nature. His character demonstrates how to make trauma funny through pure caring nature that struggles to believe bad people exist. Their dynamic creates some of the show's most beloved episodes because Butter's innocence contrasts perfectly with Cartman's manipulation, generating comedy that feels both cruel and somehow wholesome. Randy, evolving from background dad to quasi-protagonist via arcs, like Tegrity Farms, his celebrity chef phases, and obsessive baseball storylines that showcase his addictive personality. Randy has arguably become South Park's face, especially in recent seasons where he functions as the main character. His obsessive disorders mixed with sheer stupidity create a character nearly impossible to match for pure comedic value. His willingness to pursue extreme lengths to fulfill obsessions makes him special. He's what happens when adult responsibilities meet childhood impulses without any filter. The paradox hits you when you realize that even throwaway characters like Towley get official merchandise while more developed figures remain commercially ignored. Level 7 proves that being terrible often makes characters more essential than being beloved. Cartman's awfulness generates more cultural impact than most protagonists' heroism. These characters embody South Park's core philosophy. Children often appear more mature than adults, controversial moments become classics, and consistency beats complexity. Their chemistry and dynamic drive South Park's longevity. Their relationships are what make everything else possible. They demonstrate how catchphrases can trump development, and inappropriate humor creates legends when grounded in genuine character relationships. Each level serves the show's satirical ecosystem, from forgettable filler providing realistic background to these untouchable icons driving cultural conversations. The hierarchy reveals something deeper about how comedy actually works. The hierarchy revealed. What this ranking actually teaches us is that consistency beats complexity in creating lasting cultural impact. The most forgettable characters often exist, so the extremes land better without boring background figures. Cartman's chaos would feel normal instead of outrageous. From forgettable filler to untouchable icons, every character serves a purpose in South Park's ecosystem of chaos and commentary. Think of it like a comedy orchestra. Even the triangle player matters when the whole symphony comes together. The real revelation? Sometimes being terrible makes you more essential to the show's DNA than being beloved. In South Park, consistency beats complexity, catchphrases often outlive development in fan memory, And being shockingly inappropriate is sometimes how legends are made. If you enjoyed this ranking, like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments which character you think I missed or ranked wrong. Fight me about Cartman or defend Butters. Check out my other South Park breakdowns.